Welcome to this episode of Reinvention Uncensored with your host, Pat Altvader.
Welcome to this episode of Reinvention Uncensored. I am so delighted to bring to you Dr. Deitra Hickey. She is an author, a motivational speaker, and an entrepreneur. And I can't wait for you to hear her reinvention stories.
Right, yeah.
So go ahead and tell us what you started your career doing.
I started my career as an educator. I always wanted to be a teacher, and I went into the education realm. I taught fifth grade for about 8 years, and then I found myself counseling the students all day and being more involved with their social issues than necessarily their academic. So I went back to school and I decided to become a school counselor.
Okay, transition number one.
Transition number one. And then I became a counselor, and I was in the high school setting. And I found that as a high school counselor, there's a lot of scheduling and testing and administrative work, and I wasn't really getting the one-on-one counseling that I wanted with the students. So I thought, well, who goes to see the principal? The bad kids. The bad kids need counseling. So I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to become a principal, and I think I'll be able to do more counseling as a principal. So I did that, and I actually did do more one-on-one counseling with students as a school principal than I did as a counselor. But I still wanted to have a little bit more freedom to do when I want, work when I wanted. In the school setting, there's a lot of academic counseling is what you're supposed to be focused on. But given my background and the adversity that I came from, I was really drawn to the social aspect of helping people with their problems and getting people to learn how to use their adversity to strengthen instead of as a crutch. So that was the biggest jump, was transitioning out of my nice, secure job where I had my paycheck every other Friday to opening my own business. And
how long did you think about that before you made that jump?
well, I didn't think about it long because I knew that for me, I wouldn't want to jump without having an overlap. And that's one of the big things that I would recommend is start small and figure some things out along the way. You might be working after work and you might be working on the days that are your days off, but to get a feel if it's something that you want to continue moving forward with full force and full time, I wasn't comfortable leaving my job completely. So I did that transition for about a year.
So tell us what you did then, what you started.
I started a wellness center, and I had a partner at the time. It's difficult to do it on your own, maintaining another full-time job. And my wellness center is called Serenity Health and Wellness. And I started doing individual counseling in the evenings and on the weekends. And we continued adding services to our menu, and we have over 30 services now. But I eventually transitioned from the school system, and I was doing the individual counseling, and then I have one more big transition. What I found was I was having trouble separating the problems and the issues that I was hearing from absorbing them and taking them on as my own. I couldn't seem to figure out that professional boundary, that desensitization, where I just cared so much about the people, and I would even take on their symptoms sometimes. I'd stay up all night.
No.
So I'm like, I don't know how people do this all day. I love it, and I love helping people, but it was pretty hard on me emotionally and mentally and physically. I had been asked to speak and do motivational speaking here or there, and I got great feedback, and I decided I really wanted to start pursuing that. And I was standing on stage at one point, and I realized because my foundation is stress and work-life balance and resilience, perspective, that everybody has a story out in the audience. And I was actually counseling from stage or to hundreds and sometimes thousands of people, but I wasn't hearing their individual stories.
So you weren't absorbing those.
Yes, to take those on as my own. But I knew they all had one.
Yeah.
And I knew I could make a difference in that realm, and I could help so many more people in that hour than just the one-on-one counseling. So how I made that jump was I hired a life coach and I hired a counselor at Serenity, and I started delving into the motivational speaking and professional developments. So that is kind of my journey from teaching to school counselor to school principal to private practice counseling to motivational speaking.
Yeah, wow. And so what advice do you have for people who are wanting to make a reinvention?
I think reinventions can be scary. And I think my first piece of advice would be to recognize and realize that those feelings are normal. Sometimes if they feel like they're having negative thoughts or they're thinking of all the worst things that could happen, then they start to tell their subconscious mind that this must not be the right decision. And
the universe doesn't want me to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's why am I just thinking of this and that? Well, you're thinking of those negative things and you're being devil's advocate because you're human and because change can be scary. So first and foremost, I wouldn't be turned off by those feelings. Instead, I would be thankful and welcome them and start to disaggregate all of your thoughts and weigh the pros and the cons. And if you're in a situation where you can overlap and try something part-time or try to reinvent yourself while you're still in your secure job, that's always a nice angle to go as well. So those would be the two biggest things. Don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of your own fear. Make sure that it's logistically intelligent for you, financially, and your schedule. And passions are great, but it still has to work for your lifestyle and your financial commitments that you already have. Otherwise, the stress with that will just counterbalance.
Puts you in desperation mode.
Yeah.
Then you won't attract anything good.
Yeah, that's not good either. And then I would say for me, I humbled myself, and anybody that wanted to give me advice or talk to me about their experience, I welcomed it. Sometimes we get very prideful and like, I will figure this out on my own. And as soon as I learned that being transparent and saying things like, I know I want to do this, but I don't really know what I'm doing. Do you want to help me, or can you offer me some suggestions? It was great. People are always willing to help. So to be mentored by somebody who maybe has walked that path that you're looking to go.
Yeah. And I think another really interesting point from your story is that each reinvention doesn't have to be permanent. It could be just the stepping stone to something else, and that you don't have to be so serious about, oh my gosh, I have to make the right decision right this second.
Absolutely. And not only so, with my experience, they were all stepping stones to that next step, but in someone else's experience, they might really want to do something and reinvent themselves and then realize, you know what? The grass isn't greener and I can go back, or I want to go back and do exactly what they were doing before. But they can lay their head down at night and know that they tried or they got to experience it. You know, hopefully we're on this earth for a really long time. We have time to do lots of different things if we want.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people want to learn more about you, how can they find out?
They can either give me a call at Serenity at 419-891-2181 or visit my website, DeitraHickey.com.
Thank you for watching Reinvention Uncensored. For more great information, visit EliteExpertsNetwork.com.